Seriously, that pipe
Oh,
organ is amazing. Like kind of soothing, it's a little
was
elevator
pretty soothing.
music.
Yeah.
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 Welcome,
Good.
everybody. It's morning on my side of the world, afternoon in Virginia's part of the world.
Yeah.
Wherever you're tuning in from, let us know where you are. Last week we had people from various parts of the world, which was kind of
Mhm.
cool. So yeah, let us know. I'd love to know. I think I got a thing. Oh, I did have a caption to put up, but that's okay. Let
Oh,
us know
okay.
where you're tuning in from, what
Heck
time
yeah.
it is. Yeah, and
Yeah.
welcome. Again, I've got the amazing Virginia joining me. We had
Oh, thank you.
so much fun last week.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it was great just to have a chat, and we had people commenting in the chat. I'm saying chat a
Mhm.
lot, but it's just nice to engage. And if you fancy, in Virginia, I didn't tell you this, but if anyone listening fancies actually joining us in the live stream on video to ask a question, share a story,
Ooh.
I've actually popped a link in the chat. Now I know not everyone's going to be comfortable with that, but
Mhm.
come in if you want to, and let's join the conversation. So the link's there. Make sure you join from Chrome for it to work properly. And if today doesn't work for you, maybe next time you can.
Mhm.
Now, last time I rudely forgot to introduce Virginia.
Oh,
So
that's okay.
I'm not going to do that this time.
That's awesome. Whatever. It's all good.
It was a newbie blunder, right? I know you so well that I just assume everybody else
Yeah.
does. But
Yeah.
Virginia is a small business owner. Goes by the title of an anti-career guide, which I
Mhm.
absolutely love. And Virginia, before we dive into today's topic, tell us a bit
Mhm.
about the work that you do.
Yeah. So, hello everyone. Thank you for being here. And basically, what I do, kind of the anti-career guide. I help women in their 30s and 40s, aka millennials, however you want to define yourselves. Just remember you're more than a job title. And how I work through that is both personally and professionally, and help you tap into your wisdom, your empowerment, and your possibilities. And so I do have a couple programs and things that I do, but I think one of my most favorite things is networking and connecting. Even though I'm a diehard
Mm.
introvert, but I love like conversations like these with you, Rosie. And I love, seeing different things on LinkedIn where we show ourselves like we're human. We're not just
Yeah.
our job titles. And I love seeing more and more women saying, fuck, I'm just going to talk about my kids, or I'm going to talk about my dog, or I'm going to talk about my raise, whatever. And
Yeah.
so it's really becoming diversified, which I
Mhm.
appreciate. And there's
Mhm.
different voices that are trying to come up and out of the woodwork. So yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love it. I think there's a lot of exciting stuff happening in this space right now. And
Hmm.
yeah, when you say we're more than our job title, I love that. We are. We're
Hmm.
not just about work. We're human beings with so many different sides to us. And I think sharing
Hmm.
that is beautiful, and
Yeah.
elevating all our different voices it's important, I think. I don't
Hmm.
want to be part of the brigade who are silencing or shaming people, which
Hmm.
unfortunately still happens, right? But I think if there's
Totally.
enough of us, you know, elevating voices, and perhaps as people who can't speak up, if we can try and speak for them, I think that can
Hmm.
make a real difference.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
guess that's a segue into today's topic, which is standing
Yeah.
in your power.
Hmm.
Um,
Can I interrupt you real quick,
please
Rosie?
do.
How about you introduce yourself?
Oh
Right?
God, I was trying
Share
to
what you're
avoid
doing.
that.
I'm like, oh, come on, let's trade off. Let's trade off. I think this would be amazing. Yeah, because you do awesome work, Rosie. Stand in your power.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you. Yeah, so I'm Rosie. I'm in Australia, and I'm in the early stages of establishing my business. It's something I've wanted to do for a very long time. And the work that I do and want to continue doing and just really get out there is helping women tap into their true selves and really step into the life that they want, which can sound a little bit airy fairy, but I think almost everyone can relate to the feeling of, is this all there is to life? Like, how did I end up here? This isn't quite who I want to be or quite what I pictured. So I want to help women change the trajectory a bit. Like there is a lot we can control. There's things we can't, but there's a lot we can. And so that's what I'm here to do, to support women create that life that they want, because that's what I'm doing. I'm walking this journey. Virginia, I think you're walking this journey. It never ends. And I think it's really important work to do. So
yeah,
that's
bravo.
me.
Thank you. Good job.
Oh, good. Now, I hope this is actually streaming, because I'm not sure anyone is with us at the moment.
Okay.
Oh, no, it is. I got a notification there. Okay, perfect. So hopefully some people will tune in, and I know people will also come back for the replay.
Yeah, because sometimes people come in and out with these lives, right?
Absolutely.
You know, it's almost like an open house when you're buying a house or something. You know? or sometimes they have meetings, and and it is 1 o'clock PT in the States, and very early, your time. So
definitely,
we'll just keep doing it. We'll roll forward.
Let's keep doing it. This isn't a numbers game. And I was saying to someone on LinkedIn yesterday, because unfortunately she said, "Oh, is it rude or will it be disruptive if I join in halfway through?" And I said, "Fuck no." There's no etiquette around here. You come and go as you please. There's no rules. So yeah, just putting that out there.
Well said.
Thank you. So yeah, the topic today is standing in your power. And I think we all have a feeling of what that means, but I'm curious, what does it mean to you, Virginia?
I think that standing in your power for me, and actually I just did a post about this on LinkedIn today, but I think standing in your power is really coming to terms within yourself and even with others when you say enough, right? So whether it's enough of, like I said today, the hustle, right? Or enough with the politics and crap happening in our world that belittles or erases people continuously, right? So standing in our power, I think, is as like an individual. I see it as you saying, I have had enough of being, playing small, being a perfectionist, imposter syndrome, whatever that looks like, right? And you just say, I am done with that, or I'm going to be enough with it now, and then it's going to rear its ugly head in a week, and then I'll deal with it again, and just it's a life thing. I think collectively, though, power it can be misused, as we keep saying, abused, as we keep saying. But I also think in the face of that, there's a lot of people like us who are saying enough. And actually for centuries, we've said enough, especially as women, we've said enough, or queer people, we've said enough, and we don't get heard. But I think when we come together, that light builds. I believe in that. I believe in the half is, the glass is half full usually. Some days you're just like, fuck, maybe not today. But I think that power, it builds on itself. So every time we say yes to ourselves and notice something that doesn't serve us, that's power, right? So, but I think in a lot of ways in society, we get conditioned to believe power is money, success, your name, or like literal name, or your job title, or what you do for yourself. And but I think we're starting to question that. That's a very long-winded answer, but
well, it's complex, right? And it looks different to different people. And when you said it's about not playing small, I actually jotted down some notes last night. I'm like, well, what does standing in your power actually mean to me? And I really had to think about it. But this concept of not playing small is a huge part of it, not hedging. And to me, at the core of it is staying true to who you are. I've got my tattoo here that says stay true. This is something I really believe in. And living your truth and just standing in your beliefs and what's important to you, that to me just encapsulates what standing in your power means.
Yeah.
And I think it can be tricky to do because we don't always know who we are.
100%. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Or it changes and you're like, wow, not the same person I was 5 years ago. Or I was hiding them or keeping them small to play it safe or, be part of the game or whatever you want to call it. Right. And yeah.
Yeah. And I think doing that work on actually discovering who you are is is
Mm-hmm.
critical. That's a critical part of being able to stand in your power. And, you know, we'll get to that later on in the live stream. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
On some things you can do to help you stand in your power, because it can be scary. And, you know, I just have to say it's not always safe, right? Unfortunately, we're in a world where, you know, it's not always safe to do that. But for those of us who are privileged enough to be in a situation where we can stand in our power, we need to. We owe it to those who can't to do that. And we owe it to ourselves. I really, you know, we are enough and we are worth it. You know, we owe it to ourselves and others to just speak our truth. So to me, yeah, that's what standing in your power is. And it's part of it is asserting yourself, maintaining that clarity and focus. And I know sometimes I'm really good at that. And other days it's freaking hard.
Fact.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You know, you just go, I'm exhausted. I don't want to have to fight for this, because you really do have to be conscious about it. Yeah. But what I will say is I think it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the better you get at it. Yeah. And the easier it becomes. Well, I'm not sure if easier is the word, but the better you become at it. You know?
It's like a muscle memory, right? Yeah. You know, you're like, oh, wait, this is how I want to talk or stand in my truth or be, you know. Yeah. And you might be sore for a while you're trying to figure out how to do it. Literally, I was just lifting weights before our conversation. So I'm like stretching right now, like trying to all right, shoulders, you're still okay. Don't worry about it. You know, so, but like it is a practice. It's an embodiment. Yeah. It's not just, I know it's cool if you dig it, that's fine. But like, it's not just your brain, like be happy, toxic positivity, all this kind of stuff, you know, like, no, there is part mindset, but you have to embody your power as well. Yes. So what does that look like on an individual level? And that's worth unpacking. And it takes some time, but it's doable.
It does. And before we unpack that, because I think that's the natural progression of this conversation, you mentioned that it can hurt. And that's a good point. You might need to recover after being brave and speaking out. And that's okay. That's normal. I know for me, especially when I initially started being brave and voicing my truth, it is exhausting and you need some recovery time. It's hard to maintain. But I must say the longer I've done it, the longer I can sustain it.
Right. Yes. It's endurance. It's like your take on power, and you're figuring out how to endure it in your own life and in the face of really ugly things that humans do, or even sometimes when we're ugly to ourselves. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So
we can be ugly to ourselves. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So what does standing in your power look like, feel like, sound like to you?
You know what it is anymore? I've figured this out, Rosie, and it's been a recent development because, you know, it takes me 27 lessons of the same thing throughout my life. I'm an experiential learner by far instead of just like theory and learning that.
Same.
So like, you know, for me, one thing I've very much recognized that there, and it's kind of a longer story. We could always talk about it again on the show, but like I have witnessed where there's relationships in my life that are not filling my bucket in the same way. And is that Toby? Is that my cat, Toby? Yeah. I can hear that. He's like, you're going to become a cat person, Virginia.
That's him, all right. He's at
this
door.
I love it. That's so funny. I just had to throw it out there. And because standing in your power can be humorous as well. And Toby is proving this right now. He's like standing in his power, damn it.
He sure is. Yeah.
He is. Yeah. So anyway, so like I've noticed relationships lately because I'm changing and or allowing myself to be who I am. And I think there's some relationships in my life and they don't know what that's about. They're not sure about it. And so like the promise and the vow I've made to myself in the last weekish or two is from now forward, I'm not going to placate. I'm not going to be an asshole, but I'm not going to be like a doormat. I'm not going to dim my own light to make others comfortable. Now, I'm not a bully. I don't poke at people. That is not how I operate. But when I think of standing in my power as Virginia or speaking truth, I need to be my own advocate as well as an advocate for others. It's way easier to be an advocate for others than advocate for myself. So anymore in my relationships, personal and professional, I'm going to be who I am. And if they don't like it, they're not going to be in my life by their choice, right? So like in relationships, I've recognized that lately, as we all expand and be in our power, and what that looks like. And then like physically, I've been trying to work with healing my body after so many years of stress and the hustle and all of that. And you and I've talked about that too, Rosie. So like, doing empowering activities, right? So for me, it's weightlifting or rowing, or hiking or, doing other things like Sweat Lodge, empowering activities that make me feel grounded in my body friend again, instead of so scattered. Because when we get scattered, we're not in our power as well, right? Sometimes it happens for stuff out of our control, and that's okay, or stress response. But what brings us back to ourselves, that's a practice. I've done that over the years, but I'm really dedicating it now, time to it now. And like when I, even just in the manner of speaking or writing or expression, like, for us as creators and influencers and whatnot, or teachers, whatever the fuck you want to call us, it's like, am I speaking my truth? Whether it's one word or 20,000 of them in a book or something. Like, am I speaking my truth to my level, right? Or the level that works for me. And so I think like in that expression, it doesn't mean you have to have an opinion about every single bloody thing, especially if you don't even have the lived experience. That's something I think, I'll just say, us white women need to work on, is that the lived experience will stand by our sisters and our brethren. But like, we don't want to steal their power by taking up the oxygen in the room. So it's also like those boundaries, right? And that is power too. So that's like a lot of answer right there, from different directions. But that's kind of how I've been navigating this journey lately over the years. So,
yeah. And I resonate a lot with that. Just before you said something really powerful about we need to be careful not to suck the oxygen out of the room. And yeah, we don't want to take away the voice of others or speak for them when actually they can voice their truth. We haven't got their lived experience.
Yeah.
And it gets dangerous when we just make assumptions and go, no, well, everybody's life everyone's had the same experience for me, and my truth is your truth. Hell no, it's not.
Nope.
Yeah,
Nope.
it's not.
Yeah. And I feel like, I've done that over the years, like, where, like in social work or academia or nonprofit, it's like this charged expectation, right, to stand up for others. But there's also this aspect of standing with others.
Yes.
Or sitting with others, listening with others, and just shutting up and letting them have the space because it's their space. So yeah, and that might feel to us, this is such a side story, sorry, on your show,
No.
but like, it might feel to us like we're having our power taken away. I don't see it like that. We're just weaving it all together. It's just a big old tapestry in this collective and of individuals, and especially for those of us trying to keep bringing light in this semi-dark world right now, right? So we can't just think of it in terms of power like mine and yours. There's also ours.
Yes.
But if my power isn't set right, or I'm not sitting in my own truth, or all the possibilities that I can be and all the wisdom that I carry, then we're not a strong tapestry. We can be stronger, right? So it's a little bit of a dance in navigating that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And it can be really uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not perfect. We're all humaning. So, yeah.
And to hold space for others can be uncomfortable, because we're probably going to hear things that are a bit confronting and might really challenge the worldviews we hold, and we go, whoa. But I think that's a good thing. I love being challenged. I love having my eyes opened by others, because that's how I grow as a person and become more empathetic and just move through the world as a better person, because we need to keep moving forward. You mentioned that the world's a bit of a dark place right now, and we can't ignore that. There's been some freaking horrible, horrible things happening, and it feels like it's just happening more and more. And I'm not sure how to navigate that. And I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how do we stand in our power and help others do that during these dark times? How do
Mhm.
we do that?
Yeah, I kind of find this is just Virginia answering. I don't represent anyone.
Mm.
Obviously, I'm just me, myself, and I. But the way I operate is I'm the long fuse in some ways. I'll stand up, I'll advocate, but I'm not loud and boisterous like some in my
Mhm.
world who flare up differently, we'll say.
Yes.
I'm like that slow burn, but like so I sit back and watch, right? It doesn't mean I don't take action because I do it in my own way. But I just watch the room and I'm like, okay, observing that individual or that collective or that group. And actually, in a way, that does help because sometimes some of us are incredibly sensitive to these dark things that happen. I think a lot of us women are. We feel it because we're meant to be more of a community aspect. And I'm not
Mhm.
trying to gender anything. There's also men, non-binary folk, trans folks, all of us who believe in community more than the individual, right?
Mhm.
And what that looks like. But the point is there are some times, like even this week, I've been going through a transition myself. And so I've had to dial it back. Like I haven't
Mhm.
been as present as I normally am because if I don't take time, I literally just got out of the shower right before our chat, right? If I don't take time for myself, it's a burnout situation,
Yeah.
right? And we cannot recalibrate, we cannot realign to help others if we don't help ourselves too. So
Mhm.
I think so there is that. It's just like even though there's a lot of us with fire and we want to just burn all this shit down because it's just not only archaic, but it's keeping us stuck as a collective, right? And like you say, from progressing forward. But what I say to those is like when you feel the need within to rise above it, don't ignore that. Don't
Mm.
stuff it down and being like, yes, we have to remember safety. We have to remember where we work because those employers sometimes they're not kind to different voices. But the point is that we need to rest, recalibrate, move forward.
Mm.
Rest and recalibrate and move forward. And what I find helps when you're trying to stand in your own power, help others stand in their own power, is to remind them that it's even there in the first place. Because when
Mm.
all this shit's happening, it feels like a fucking like tidal wave, right? And
Yeah.
we can't breathe. We can't even get out of it. We don't even know what's happening. And so we forget or we feel powerless, but there's still something inside us. I firmly believe in that, in my
Mm.
bones. And but it can look different. It can be quiet, or it can be that fire, bonfire, or it
Right.
can be something roaring. But I think when we come in community and help each other, so when my light is a little dim because I'm exhausted, my friend Rosie comes in with her big old light and says, I got you. I got
Mm.
you, and vice versa.
Mm.
So I kind of I don't know if that answers your question. I kind of went on a tangent there, but I just feel like it is about empowering ourselves and others,
Yeah.
recognizing that it's a marathon. It's the long game. It's like there are sprints in there, but there's a lot of uphill battles right now. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. And a theme that's coming out a lot in this conversation is it looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's not just about us, it's also about others. And,
Mhm.
you said earlier it's a dance. It is. And the
Mhm.
balance shifts and moves. And that's the beauty of it. And I think in times like this where we're feeling a bit defeated, with what's going on, you go,
Yeah.
wow, there's so much hate in the world. And how
Mhm.
did we get here? And I know
Mhm.
for me, a lot of anger comes out. And
Yeah.
sometimes I just want to name call.
Mhm.
But that, can I just say, is not standing in your power. Being a bully,
Mm.
name calling, dehumanizing people,
Mhm.
that's not standing in your power. That
Mhm.
that gets really ugly and it just fuels this really destructive fire. I think it's important to know what is and isn't standing in your power because there is
Right.
there is room for anger. We have to feel that. We
Mhm.
can't we
Totally.
can't just ignore
Ign
that.
Yeah.
But we
Mhm.
can't
Yeah.
start spewing hate from the rooftops. Like, is that really constructive? Are we raising others
Right.
up? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we need to
Because it's
figure it.
coming at us too, right? Literally, it's coming our way,
And that's
at us
hard.
to
If
speak
other
as a queer woman, or whatever, like, as other who's not like white conservative. Well, that's in our country, but you know what I mean. Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I just
It's important.
it is, and it's really hard when other people are playing that hate game, not to
Mm.
engage
You
back
know
in
what?
it.
It's like fourth grade again, where you're like, I can't believe you pushed me on the playground, you
Yeah.
jackass.
Mm.
Like,
So
But yeah, but then it just blows up from there.
yeah.
I
So
don't
how do
know.
we
It's
navigate
hard.
with that? Like, I know for me,
Mhm,
it often starts within. I'm not going to get
mhm,
it on a platform and do it that way. Often it'll be,
mhm,
you mentioned before you were doing weights this morning, and that is an example
mm,
of standing in your power.
mhm,
Something
mhm.
simple like that
Yeah.
is standing in your power. You don't have to
Mhm,
be some celebrity, on TV, on the radio, in the media.
mhm.
That's one example, but it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be that. It looks
Mhm,
different, and however you're showing up is just as important as how others are showing up when they stand
mhm.
in their power. I think that's
Yeah.
important to acknowledge. We cannot
Mhm,
compare, and what standing in my power looks, feels, sounds like could be quite different to what it looks, feels, sounds like
mhm,
for you, depending on where
mhm.
we are in our journey, what feels
Yep.
safe. Um, because we do need to look after ourselves when we do this. It can be
Mhm,
very, very draining.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and you made me just think of something, Rosie, too. So, like, one way it might not look like I'm standing in my power per se, and this isn't to freaking like toot my own horn and say Virginia's badass. It's not what I'm saying.
Mm,
It's just an example. But like, I find a lot of power or empowerment when I amplify other voices on LinkedIn,
mhm,
sharing their posts, because
mhm,
I don't need to say what they're saying. One, some of it or a lot of it's not my lived experience.
mm.
Two, their lived experience, their wisdom, and all of their knowledge and knowing needs to be heard or
Yes.
read or whatever
Yeah.
is needed there. And so like that is also staying in power by saying I'm holding my power as an individual, but I'm pushing forward your power so it
Mm,
can be known. And actually, and it's not, I don't see it as passing the buck,
mm,
like, oh, you figure it out. I'll just sit back here on, in the back of the arena and just watch with popcorn. Like that's not what it is. I think like,
mm.
you know, it so that's kind of how I do it. Or like when
Yeah.
I'm standing up, I get on the computer and I start writing. I'm like when I'm pissed, it's like Charles Dickens with a fucking like anger management issue. I am like all there in it with all those words and the sentences and just nail it.
Yeah.
But then I've also recognized when I'm incredibly deeply angry, like when Roe v. Wade shifted here, or we just had little kids murdered, and yet gun rights are still a top thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we won't go there right now because it would take another 3 hours. But the point is, that is a deeply angering, disgusting thing, like a reality, right?
Mhm,
And it
mhm,
is very hard, though. The point I want to make is it's so hard when we see this, and especially in our country, we're like, oh, again, oh, again, oh,
mm,
again.
mm.
That is so, like you use the word deflating, right? And it's so deflating. But like
Yeah.
if we and I'm not trying to be all fucking Pollyanna on this, Rosie, but if we stay deflated, if we don't, I don't know what the example is, but blow our little balloon back up, like we're
Right.
hosed. We're hosed.
Yeah.
Like there's no way this is going to work. This, dare I say, revolution or the
Yeah.
shift or movement in the collective is going to change anything,
Yeah.
right? But we take care of ourselves so we don't stay deflated, or
Mm,
we have somebody come in and take care of us. You've done that for me in the past. Verge, how
mm,
you doing?
mm.
Shit, you even texted, how are you today? I'm like, dude, it's like been a long week.
It's rough.
Oh, it's been, I might bring a glass of wine to our show.
Yeah.
So that's it. We have to work with, it's a process. It's a dance,
Mhm,
like we've been talking about.
mhm.
I just had to say that real quick because
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
No, that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And I want the second half of this show to really be a bit more uplifting and share how
Yes.
to stand in our power. But before we
Let's do
get
it.
there,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to dig in a little bit more in the ways that we often give away our power. And I
Yep.
actually just opened up the LinkedIn window and there are 2 people with us. So the software,
Hello.
hello,
Welcome.
let us know where you are. Come
Right.
on, go in the
I'm in the
chat.
Seattle area. Rosie, you're in Australia.
Yep,
Although
I'm
it's
in
a huge
Brisbane.
ass country.
Yeah.
Brisbane. There we go.
Yeah, the software I'm using isn't showing that, so that's annoying. But
Oh,
drop in
good
the
to
chat
know.
where in the world you are,
Mhm.
what time it is, and I want you to have a think. What are some examples or some ways you've actually given away your power in the past? Let's
Mm,
be real with each other because we do
yep.
it. I know,
Mhm.
you know, when I blame people, I'm giving
Mhm.
away my power.
Fascinating.
When I get reactive or I feel jealous, that is not standing in my power. When I choose not to speak up when I can, that is not standing in my power. That's giving away the
Mhm.
power to others. Naya
Mhm.
says she's in Cairns
Oh,
and it's too
hey,
early.
Naya. I
Thank you for
know.
joining us. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
You're amazing. You're my number 1 fan.
Yeah.
It means the world. So thank you.
Let's all get some coffee in us or tea or whatever. A little bit of a boost.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, not speaking up. And
Mhm.
when I fall into the trap of people pleasing and placing my self-worth in the hands of others, that is giving away my power.
Huge.
And when I
Mhm.
wait for permission from somebody to speak my truth, that is giving away my power.
Yeah.
That's what it means to me. But I'm curious, Virginia, what does it
Mhm.
mean to you? And other people in
Mhm.
the chat, what does it look like when you give away
Mhm.
your power? Let me know. This probably takes a bit of processing power, especially early in the
Yeah.
morning for people like me and Naya. But
Yeah.
let us know. And while Virginia
Mhm.
talks, I want to see some comments popping up in the chat.
Yeah, yeah. So I echo some of those things, right? Like the people pleasing and not speaking up when it's the right time, da da da. One thing that I personally give away my power, although I've been trying to claim it back this week too, is just recognizing that when I stop myself early before something even gets started because I'm too fucking scared to either fail. And we talked about this before last time, right? But too scared to fail. It's going to be a fucking embarrassment because I either did fail or, oh, Virginia's just doing one more thing in life, whatever that looks like, just one more degree or one more thing, project, which I am a multi-passionate busy bee. So, hey, whatever, get over it. But the thing is, I think for me, it's like I give away my power. And like I said earlier about relationships, right? They'll say something and I do bite back a little bit because I'm like, hello, science statistics. But it's just like showing up as I am. I have not done that okay, sorry, let me back the truck up, Rosie. I come from a childhood and young adulthood with a lot of trauma. And so when we talk about those safety aspects, right, that's something to recognize. Because like for any of us, whether we've, been in a marginalized group or just historically disadvantaged group or in a trauma situation, sometimes both, it's layered, right? If somebody raises their voice, in a situation, I just like talk about shut down city, and so, but then there's also aspects of that is like, how do you stand in your power when your body friend is literally like firing, like, like it's body memory. So the point is I've been trying to work with this and navigate it. So like my throat or my words don't get stuck when it's like, no, this is the right thing to say or talk about, even though you can have your opinion or your own thing. And don't let my body friend just like, freeze out. But like, also don't be my own worst enemy. And you've had to help me launch my program last year. You're like, James, just do it. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. You're like, well, if you don't do it, nothing's going to happen, basically, in a nutshell. So like, that is also giving away power. And I've done it over the years.
Mhm.
But like even this week was something we'll talk about some other time. But like even now I'm regaining it saying, I deserve better. So the point is to round this out. When we recognize in a scenario, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a program, whether it's a job, whether it's a car deal, I don't know,
Mm.
anything in life,
Mm.
and you say, I deserve better. And you're not just being some arrogant ass. You're like, I truly know that this isn't a good fit and I deserve better.
Mm.
Stay in that.
Yeah.
Do not back away from it and say, oh, but
Yeah.
that's giving you your power, right? And I've done it over the last 30 some years. So like it's a practice. You know,
It is
I get
a
it.
practice. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's like the summary. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think an important point to acknowledge is there is fear surrounding this. So before you are able to stand up in your power, often there are feelings of fear that are coming up. And
Yeah.
it's recognizing, okay, is this actually an unsafe situation for me? Or am I
Mhm.
just really worrying about too much of the opinion of others or the status
Mhm.
quo? You know, oh, I can't speak up. That's not
yeah.
how it's done. No one
That's
else
not
is
how we
voicing
do
this.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Fuck that shit.
Mhm.
I'm not a fan of
Yep.
that.
That's so not your thing.
No, it's not.
I love it.
Riles me up. Yeah.
It does.
I think we have to question the norm. You know,
Mhm.
once upon a time, it was normal for women not to have the right to vote. Once upon a time, slavery was
Mhm.
normal. And in fact,
Mhm.
in some places, it still is. And if
Mhm.
we are not questioning those norms, how are we going to make the world a better place?
Mhm. Mhm. And we
Mm.
have to question our own norms.
Right.
Like the big ones in our society,
Yes.
going macro here, but
Yes.
then also within ourselves.
Mhm.
So like when you've recognized you're establishing your business, you've been
Mm.
working on things and you're just like, I want to do this business. I've wanted to do this business for a long time. So your norm used to be work the 9 to 5 or whatever, right?
Right.
But now you're shifting your norm and you're tweaking it.
Mhm.
It's kind of probably the how part of this show, I just realized. But you know,
Yeah.
it's interesting.
It
Mhm.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's lots of sides. And that brings us nicely. So we've spoken about ways we're giving away our power, which probably,
Yeah.
you know, doesn't feel great talking about that, but it's a real
Yeah.
thing, and we have
Real.
to recognize those red flags. It's going to keep
Mhm.
happening, but we just have to recognize it and go, right,
Yep.
take a breath, recalibrate,
Mhm.
let's go.
Yep.
So
100%.
how
Mhm.
on earth can we stand in our power? What are some actually
Mhm.
actionable tips on how we do this? And maybe we can share, you know, some stories of when we've done it and what it
Mhm.
looks like, because sometimes it's really hard to envision, well, what does this actually mean? How do I do it?
Mhm.
I don't get it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I two very tangible, simple examples come to mind, and then we
Mhm.
can talk big picture. You know, when you share yours too. But I feel like if you're having issues with boundaries or it
Yeah.
freaks you out a little bit, the one thing I recommended on LinkedIn probably like a few months ago, I can't remember now. I don't even know where the post went, but like it was like just start unsubscribing in your email inbox. The things that don't matter anymore, or they don't interest you anymore, or you're
Yeah.
just like, that doesn't work, or
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
spammy, you know? So like that's a great way to practice boundaries without
Yeah.
pissing people off in your life
Yeah.
immediately, you know, or whatever, or dealing with
Yeah.
that emotional processing.
Yeah.
So like unsubscribing in your email inbox, you know, and the other one, especially for those of us, myself included, very guilty,
Mm.
who over apologize or who apologize too much for like things we should not apologize for. And I think it's in as women too, especially it's like in our wiring, you know, just to like, oh, I'm really sorry you whatever lost your tire on the freeway. Well, who lost the tire on the freeway? You know, like I mean, it wasn't us, right? So that's been years worth of work. But the one thing I've really tried to stop doing over the last year or two is like when I start to feel like I'm going to overcompensate just to make them happy, which for
Mm.
the record, we can't fucking do that, by the way, because that being is out of our control.
Mhm.
Just shut your mouth. Like, or when you're writing that email and you're going to go into all this, like, oh, I'm really, really sorry about this. I'm going to make up for it in this way. Da 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 da. When it's, you shouldn't even need to, or it's not even your thing. Just stop typing.
Right.
Just sit with it for a second. Or if you're coming kind of out of your mouth, just shut your mouth for a second and just look at them and just breathe. 5,
Yeah.
or like the Mel Robbins thing. I don't know, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't do that, but I just breathe.
Yeah.
I just like sit with my breath, get very mindful about the moment, and if they just stare at you funny, okay, So those are 2 very tangible, simple ways that I've been practicing this taking back my power over the years. And in other ways, again, it's just like, this is a very fine example, and we're all adults here. So there was, we'll say, an incident a couple years ago now that I think about it, where somebody made a comment about a woman in power, we'll say. And I basically said, if you're going to say XYZ about that woman, you can get the out of here. Now, I've never done something like that before. Like, really, with many people or ever, I don't even know. I mean, it just came out of nowhere. But like, luckily they took it well for the most part. And I did apologize later, because I'm like, okay, that's not usually my level, and frankly, it wasn't even my space to say that. But I'll tell you what, they haven't fucked with me since. So it's kind of handy. And so like, if you're not ready to go there, start with the unsubscribe, start with the emails, or just shutting your face, and build up to it. It's like a rubber band, like we talked about last time, like stretch it, the comfort zone, little bit. And there's no shame in little steps. So what about you though? How do you stand in your power? I want to hear it.
I love all of those examples. And when you brought up apologizing, I'm going, yes, that's something I'm really working on. Stop fucking saying sorry when you don't need to.
Right. If you do, then you do. But if you don't,
that's right. Don't be an asshole. There are times you need to apologize. But oh, sorry, I'm 30 seconds late for this meeting. No. It's, oh, thank you for waiting. Really appreciate it.
Right.
Why are you fucking saying sorry? No. You had shit going on and you still turned up. No.
Yeah.
Or for example, yesterday I was at work, walking out of the bathroom, and someone was walking in at the same time, and they went, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm thinking, you don't have to apologize. But that's my default too. You sort of almost collide with someone. You're like, oh, sorry. But it's hey, we're both walking. Oops, didn't see you. Like, you okay? Like, okay, I'm going to move aside. So I think that's a big one, especially for women. We're always saying sorry. Don't do that. Try replacing it with thank you and see. And it's going to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Or even a hey there. Like you said, you're coming out of the loo.
Yes.
Hey,
oh, hello. Lovely to see you. Right?
Yeah. Hey, human being. Pleasure. Welcome. Yeah.
So that's a big one. And another one for me that I'm really working on is saying no.
Oh,
and
I love that one.
You get it.
Do we have reactions on here, Rosie?
I don't think we do. People in the chat,
bravo.
Let me know. Do you have trouble with saying no? Right. Don't lie to me.
Don't lie.
Because we can tell. Trouble with saying no? That's right. I know the answer. No, I know you. Actually, she's pretty good at saying no, I must say.
That's awesome.
A lot better than me. But I know there's times where we've all struggled. Like, I'm shocking at it. And because I'm so worried about letting other people down. A big thing for me is I like to show up, and I'm a helper. I'm a giver.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we have to say yes all the bloody time. I end up in all sorts of hot water when I do that, because I'm in situations actually I didn't want to do that. I said yes to help you.
Yeah.
Right. Can't do that. So practicing saying no. And one thing I love is no is a complete sentence. You don't need to give a fucking explanation. You owe people nothing. Naya says, haha, yes and no to having trouble with saying no. Yeah, that's true. In some situations, it's a lot easier than others. Like if it's someone you have a close relationship with, well, actually, sometimes it's easier. Sometimes it's harder because they mean so much to you, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something I'm really working on. And I, like this year alone, I've said no so many times. It's great. There's been opportunities. I'm like, nah, sounds cool, but no, thank you.
Yeah.
And I don't.
And then you see down the road, in the moment, you almost want to say yes to everything because you want to control the situation or to know what's happening. But when you say no to something. So yes, things can come in, right? It's a trade. Because we only have so much head space, heart space, body space, all of this, And
I'm so glad you brought that up. Saying no allows you to say yes to the things that are important. Don't forget that. If you're saying yes to all this unimportant shit, how are you going to say yes to the things that truly matter. You
Yeah.
just can't. You don't have
Yep.
space for it all. So you need to be
Mhm.
really intentional. There are consequences for every single choice we make. And we're
Yep.
not always going to get it right, but we keep practicing. We be self-aware and go,
Mhm.
oh, crap, shouldn't have done that. But then go have the
Mhm.
conversation and go, look, I know I said yes, but actually this doesn't suit me. And actually, actually don't think it's going to work out for either of us.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or maybe it just won't work out for you, and that's fine.
Right.
That's
Well, and
okay.
you make me think of something,
Mm.
Rosie. So, like, long story short, in my program, there's a module about something I don't even remember right now, like comfort zones. Right. I was like,
yeah.
God, there's a diagram in my brain right now. Again, it's been a hell of a week, but when you're in that growth zone, you get a little bit more adventurous, and you get to say, sure, let's give this a whirl because I'm growing. Right. Or, yeah, it's not in the fear or comfort zone. It's like in a space where I keep learning. Like Naya says, yes, no, maybe.
Yeah.
And then yes, no, maybe. Right. And then you just say, well, that was interesting, but now I know.
Mhm.
And so it's just like, and that's being in your power. I
Mhm.
would argue when you're in your growth zone, right, in your learning zones, you're in your power way more than when you're in your comfort zone or your fear zone.
Yeah.
I get wanting to maintain your power and whatnot in your comfort zone because you like that. You feel powerful in it. But are you?
It's a fallacy.
Are
yeah.
you?
Mm.
Yeah. So I had to throw that out there because I was like,
Mm.
that's an interesting point,
Yeah.
And being okay, like you're saying, being okay with just going, oh shit, well, there we go. Now we know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The comfort zone thing is huge.
Mhm.
And
That
that's
you should do a show on that. Just saying. That's my vote.
actually.
Mhm.
Let
Mhm.
us know. Is that something you'd enjoy if next week's
Yeah.
live stream is about comfort zones? Because it's a bit of a contentious thing. Some people go,
Mhm.
I'm going to stay in my comfort zone. I'm not leaving.
Right.
I'm happy.
And they can.
Yeah,
But
go for it. But I don't agree
Yep.
with it. Just saying.
I know. Well, sorry.
Sorry.
Well, the funny thing is,
Yeah.
I love it. I just probably yelled into the little microphone thingy. But what's fascinating to me, and I'm just going to be a little judgy. I'm sorry, everybody. Sorry, not sorry. But you cannot stay in your comfort zone and bitch about it later. You know what I mean?
I
Drives
was
me
having this
bananas,
conversation with Naya the other day. I'm not going to give details, but
Oh, it's
we were
okay.
talking about someone going, I am so sick of them just complaining and doing nothing about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And yes, this might be a bit judgy, but this is me.
Mhm.
This is me serving others in a way. I need to push back
Yeah.
because what are you doing? You're going around in circles. Is it really bringing
Right.
you joy if you're just complaining the whole time? Now,
Yeah.
there is a space for complaining. I do it.
Right.
You
You
do
have
it.
to
You
own
need
it.
to vent.
It's okay.
You do.
Yep.
But then it's like, okay, how am I going to move through this? I want things to change. I've just spent hours, days, weeks, months, whatever, complaining
Years,
about it.
even years.
Years, right.
Yep.
I think we're all
Mhm.
guilty of that.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do?
Mhm.
I think that's important. Don't just complain. Push through it.
Yeah. And that's powerful.
It is
It
powerful.
is so powerful when you're at the threshold. That's what I love
Yeah.
to talk about in my work. You're at that threshold. Are you opening that door? Or are you going to bitch about the door being closed?
Right.
You only
Did you
got a
know
few
the door will
options.
open if you just turn the handle?
I know. And if you've locked it with your key and lost the key, well, guess what? We have chainsaws. Okay. Or we've got tools. I don't know. I'm a total femme in some ways, not always, but there's ways to work with it. Or you climb out of the fucking window.
Right.
There,
Absolutely.
let's adapt.
There are ways.
So,
and sometimes there's things we can't change and we can't get through.
Right.
But there is so much we can change.
Mhm.
Stop being a naysayer.
Mhm.
Just cut that shit out. I don't have time
Yep.
for it. But
especially when it's yourself. Sorry, I just had to interrupt you. Like,
no.
It's so hard. And you're like letting all your power leach out of who you are, how you operate, and all of that.
Yeah. And one thing I love when I am getting in my way, Naya goes to me, stop being a boulder, for fuck's sake.
I remember that.
Right? Because I get in my way. We all do it. It's just, you go, what the hell are you doing? You're saying you really want this thing, and yet you're getting in your way. So it's important to just check in and go, oh, hang on a minute. I'm not helping myself here.
Right.
So you just need to pivot and try something new.
100%.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. Nope, it's not. Nope.
And we're going to have to keep learning, unlearning, relearning. I keep learning the same lessons and keep falling into the same habits, but I'm getting better. Right. But
Mhm.
the point is we get better at recognizing it, going, oh, I'm doing it again. Let's pivot.
Yep.
Who are
Yep.
the people in my life who can support me, give me that nudge and
Mhm.
help point me in
Yep.
the right direction, because
Yes.
community is important.
Mhm.
I think, I'm someone who likes to be independent, but
Mhm.
I show up so much better when I draw people or have
Mhm.
people around me to support me. I just show up
Yeah.
so much better. Don't suffer
Yeah.
alone. Don't be proud. Don't be too
No.
proud to just bring others
Yeah.
in.
I thought you just said don't be a prat.
No. Don't be a prat,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. Well, and it's true because like I'm very independent myself, right? Like in so many different ways for so many different reasons. But man, I'll tell you, it is so handy when some people are like in the nicest of ways, just like what are you doing? Or like you did with me this week as I'm unpacking this one transition in my life, just like you were holding it back, but you're like, is this really the best thing for you? Right? Or why can't you go just do your own thing? And I'm like,
yeah. Oh,
good point.
yeah.
So like we need people in our circle, like we were talking about earlier, when we're dimming our light or it's like almost extinguished because we're burnt out, stressed out, or overwhelmed. We need people to say, it's like sadly at like a memorial or something or a protest or whatever, we're lighting each other's candles.
Mhm.
Sometimes we need that.
Mhm.
And that's okay, even for us lone wolves, as I've written about on my blog, or like those of us who are like, damn it, I'm independent and I know my own shit, until
Yeah.
somebody like Anaya comes in and says, really?
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
unpack that. And it's not like you're losing your power in these conversations. You're gaining it.
Oh,
It just from a different
100%.
person, or
I
they
feel
help it,
so alive when someone comes and challenges me. Like initially I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
fuck you. Shut the fuck up, But
And you get
then
all defensive and barbarous, like
you
what?
do.
Like a
Yeah.
hedgehog,
Because it
a
can be
cute one.
hard to take on that
Yeah.
feedback. But it's
Yeah.
okay. You can have that reaction, but then settle
Mhm.
down and just listen
Right.
and process. It can take some time. You might need
Yes.
to go away and think about it.
Yeah. Have a brood, and be all like,
Right. Yeah.
and then hours later, like,
Maybe you're right.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going from like a porcupine to a cute little hedgehog, a little
Right.
softer, you
Right.
know? So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm someone who, yeah, sometimes I need a really like a big push, like someone to go,
Yep.
I don't think so.
Go. Yep.
And
Mhm.
sometimes I need a bit of a gentle, more
Yeah.
TLC, right? And so
Yep.
you need to find those people in your life. They are out there. And if they're not at the
Mhm.
moment, go find them.
Yeah, or you got us. I
Right.
mean,
We're here.
we're
We're
pretty
here.
cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Message us,
Yeah,
connect. Right. But back to,
for
I
sure.
think the initial thing you asked me was
That's okay.
what are ways we can stand in our power? And you were giving
Uh-huh.
such actionable examples. Unsubscribe from those emails filling up your inbox. The other day I
Mhm.
had all this crap coming in and I just sort of delete. And I'm like, well, why am I
Mhm.
unsubscribing?
Yeah,
I don't
good
need that in
point.
my life. It's taking up
Mhm.
space.
Yep.
Stop apologizing. I want you to practice that. Start, one
Mhm.
way is to replace sorry with thank you or just something else.
Mhm.
Or just say
Yeah.
nothing.
Just have some quiet time in
Just
your
like,
own
yep, bye.
headspace.
Yep. Mhm.
Yep. Mhm.
And saying no is important. It's a complete
Mhm.
sentence.
Mhm.
And if you're someone who really has trouble with that, try pausing. Because my
Mhm.
default is to say yes. But if I just pause, I'll stay quiet
Mhm.
and then I'll go, let me have a think and I'll get back to you. That's
Yeah.
one way. Or
Yeah.
maybe you just need those 30 seconds and then you can
Mhm.
say no. Just put
Mhm.
some space in there. It's okay.
Yep.
You don't owe it to them to give them a
Yeah.
question. An
Yeah.
answer straight away. And they might
Mhm.
go, oh, I need to know now. And you're like, well,
Like,
this
well,
isn't about you. You're asking me for
right,
something. So I'm going to do it on my
right.
terms.
Yep. Well
Yeah.
said. And that
Yeah.
can be done in conversation, email, committee
Yeah.
meetings, or whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe you find it easier to say no in person. I
Mhm.
don't, but maybe you find
Mhm.
it easier to do it in an email because, it's less confronting. So find a way
Mhm.
that feels a little bit more comfortable and practice doing that. And then you can work your
Mhm.
way up to doing it in scarier situations.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, I think they're the key ways for me to stand in your power.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, let us know in the chat. What are some ways you
Mhm.
stand in your power?
Yeah.
When was the time you did? Was it saying no? Was it
Mhm.
actually saying yes to something?
Mhm.
sometimes that's actually standing in your power, because
Mhm.
in the past you've said no to yourself, not to someone else. Often it's saying no to
Mhm.
yourself.
Yep.
You go, no, I can't do that. Oh, no, 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 I
Yep.
can't do that. But have you said yes before and just gone
Mhm.
for it? You know, for me,
Yeah.
it was so liberating to go, I'm leaving my 9 to 5.
Mhm.
It's not because it's a shitty workplace with a shitty culture. No, it's
Mm.
because I'm putting myself first and I want to do something different.
Yep.
Watch me
100%.
go.
Mhm. Yep, here we go. And you know, one thing you make me think, Rosie, is
Mm,
like another way to stand in your power is to recognize how the best ways to do it. So for you, you might be a skydiver
right. I've done that
style,
before.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, goddess bless. I could not do that. I don't know. I'd be like, oh shit.
I've got a post on LinkedIn somewhere about it.
Oh,
I'll
you
have to,
did. I remember
yeah,
that.
right.
Yeah,
But
reshare that.
yeah.
Yeah. But you know, like even with you, working with Kundalini, or we've talked about that, and not to put your story out there or anything, but it's just like you've been thinking about Kundalini for a while, right?
Mhm.
And you're like, little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit. But lately, I think you've just said, nope, fucking do it, and like you do
Right.
the skydive, or like, people in your world say, big nudge, maybe. So the point I want to share for those listening and or watching this later is just like, if you see a pattern throughout your life where it works for you a certain way,
Mhm.
use that.
Mhm.
Tap into your power that way because it works. You don't
Yeah.
have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to do it because some great name on the internet says do it this way. It's the
Mhm.
secret,
Yeah.
right? You don't even have to listen to us.
Yeah.
It's just like when you see what works for you, use that shit. And
Mhm.
that's opening up to your power and shifting your life in certain ways that work for you. Right.
Mm.
So you just made me think of the skydiving, and you've done it. So you literally know my example. But for you, it's like it's so hard for all of us. We're at that, I haven't done it, but the door when it opens and you say, well, there it is, and I'm ready to jump out. So many people say,
Yeah.
but they got all the way up there in the airplane, right? They made it
Right.
all that way, and they still
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even get on the airplane personally to do that. I'd watch from the ground and be like, peace out, bitches. But like for you, it's a process. And for
Mm.
you have to jump, and you like really jump, right? That's your
Yeah.
thing. It's not a kiddie
Yeah.
pool.
No,
And that's how
that's
Rosie
right.
works.
I do best when
So
it's like, yeah, let's go. I'm
you
jumping out of
do.
plane.
Yeah, right. So that's how you can stand in your power. It just made me think of that. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. But I must say, I don't always feel up to that. Um,
Good point.
and that's okay too. But
Yeah.
I do have to push myself out of my comfort zone and stay true to
Mhm.
me. I know how I operate best. Why am I
Yep.
resisting that? And me
Mhm.
going live every week, this is an example of me standing in my power. Like, this is
Huge.
terrifying to me. Before we did it
Yeah.
last week, I was like, oh my God, what if no one shows up? What if I have nothing to say?
I
Like,
know.
it was scary. But
Mhm.
going back to how does it feel to stand in your power?
Mhm.
Holy crap, it feels amazing.
Totally.
Like, before I do it, I'm terrified. I've
Yeah,
got a
your
knot in
stomach's
my
all in knots.
stomach.
Yep.
My heart's
Yeah.
racing. I'm
Uh-huh.
often a little bit sweaty, going, oh my
Yeah.
God.
I can't breathe.
And then I
Mhm.
do it, and it's like this weight has been lifted, and I feel
Yeah.
liberated and energized
Yep.
and happy. Like,
Mhm.
it's amazing. Give it a go.
Mhm.
Maybe for you, it's as
Mhm.
little as unsubscribing from an email. Maybe
Mhm.
it's not apologizing to that jackass at work who,
Mhm.
is an absolute a-hole. Stop
Mhm.
apologizing. See how it
Yep.
feels. You're going to feel great.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, I think so anyway. How does it feel for
Mhm.
you, Virginia, when you stand in your power?
Well, I did it. Well, okay, I did it yesterday.
Yeah.
No, was today Thursday? When did I talk? You were in the preview of that conversation. Like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I basically had a conversation with an individual, and I said, not the words "I deserve better," but let's just say it was all out there, and I filled up that discussion with them, and and I'm still like, I'm not on the fence about this decision, but I'm sitting there going, that's really good information to have.
Mhm.
Noted, but it
Mhm.
helps my decision basically,
Yeah.
right? And but it was so nice to just be honest and be very honest about what I expected, anticipated,
Mhm.
desire, and all
Mhm.
of that. And one thing I will say is like, it's not just for me, but it's in my case, people coming behind me. And that fires me up big time. I might not stand in my own power for my own self sometimes, but fuck, I will stand for others because
Mhm.
that is the right thing to do.
Mhm.
And And so again, that's a whole different show and different story. But I think like, even you were there. I think I sent you a screenshot. Somebody on LinkedIn hopped into my DM and just like, hey, I don't mean to be direct, but, and then they pitched. And then I just like, so I actually was like, oh, the old Virginia back in the day would have been like, thanks so much. I'm just really busy right now. Line one, I said, hey, whatever your face is, thanks so much. I didn't even say that actually. I just like, with connections and new connections, I usually appreciate a relationship building before the pitch,
Yeah, don't pitch slap me. Bugger off. Who do you think you are?
Yeah. And then they did it twice more. And now they're following me. So, hey, if you're seeing this show right now, don't do that. That's not okay. And you make us real entrepreneurs look like shit.
Yeah.
So just PS that.
And that's another thing I don't think, well, we've mentioned it earlier, but another thing of how to stand in your power, set that boundary. And often it involves saying no. And it can feel uncomfortable, but you need to do that. Like if you don't tell people that boundary, they actually don't know. Don't assume that they know what they're doing is
Humans
crossing
are not
that boundary.
Smart sometimes. Like, yeah. Right.
No.
And and that's it too, is like, the earlier set the boundary, the better it's going to be.
Exactly.
Tell you that right now from personal experience.
Yeah.
And it's powerful. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, this was so much fun. I guess we should wrap it up.
I know. Are we at our time? I'm so used to different platforms. I'm like, where's the clock?
Yeah, where's the clock right now?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if we had to end on one take-home message, no pressure.
Zero pressure.
What would you say?
It's hard enough when people take power from you or try to limit your power, as we're seeing in the world. But when that's all happening outside of ourselves, dig into your own power and do that on the daily. Don't just put it off for tomorrow. Don't put it off for next week. And I get we're all surviving in a lot of ways because the world is hard right now. But the takeaway, if you're going to remember anything I said, is just to know that your power is always there, even if you don't know that it is. And when you're sitting in the face of all this shit going on right now, continue to work with your power, whether it's through meditation, some pray, some workout, some read, like whatever. Just keep growing that light within because nobody can fucking take that away from you at all. It feels like it, but nobody can take it. Even, I'm going off on a tangent for a second, but like even if us queer folk are jailed or put put away in a very degrading space or harmed or whatever, like we still have our light within us. Nobody can take that away. And even as women, they can try to silence us, but they cannot do that for ourselves. And we keep talking to each other. Noted. You know what I mean? So that's the thing is, don't lose that within yourself. Remember to practice with that wise woman inside or that wise human inside and be there with them and learn from them, therefore learning from yourself. And that's where your power resides, not in anything outside this space, not anything outside this body friend or spiritual being or whatever. It's all right here. And so keep knowing who that is and keep growing in it. So that's the takeaway.
I love that. And just to add on a little bit, practice saying, I deserve better.
I deserve better.
Until you freaking believe it.
And it might take 8 years, but you just keep saying that shit and you embody it and you walk in that. Keep your shoulders up, right? Or sit up or whatever your body friend's needs are. You sit in a position or be in a position of your empowerment because nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah.
So,
and on that note, continue your day, start your day, whatever time zone you're in, by saying, I deserve better, and practice standing in your power.
Hell yeah.
You've got this. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.